intro. I'm finding he's going to get the best intro, I think. Dr. Rajesh is an ophthalmologist par excellence, who's a surgeon of world acclaim, can handle the most difficult and most challenging corneal surgeries with an inborn innovative style. A surgeon who actually once casually told me in the passing that he does all surgeries of the anterior segment, which is actually a reflection of his phenomenal versatility and an individual who has stunned audience world over by his God-given blessing of doing top-notch live surgical demonstrations. He has taught corneal lamellar procedures to a huge number in his much sought-after training workshops and sessions, and yet carries a humility about him. A man of amazing skill sets aside of ophthalmology, if you have access to his Facebook, and he's the right choice to talk on talc in keratoconus. On to you, Dr. Rajesh.
Thank you, Dr. Chitra. So I'll be talking on talc in keratoconus. So this was a paper published back in 2015 in Cornea, which was a global consensus on keratoconus and ectatic disease management. And a lot of corneal surgeons world over had taken part in this. And if you look at this flowchart, there are all these various options that have been discussed in this webinar. And if you look at it, the corneal surgery comes at the fag end of it. Like once you have run out of all other options, you have to think about corneal replacement procedure. And advanced keratoconus, yes, when you cannot fit a contact lens satisfactorily, you have to look at restoring the corneal architecture using a surgical procedure. Deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty refers to a surgical technique where you remove almost over 90% of the corneal stroma, leaving behind a healthy Descemet's membrane and the endothelium. And the paper published by the American Academy in 2011 in ophthalmology also indicated that talc should be the procedure of choice for conditions where the endothelium is healthy instead of penetrating keratoplasty. The advantages, one of the major advantages of talc is that the host endothelium is preserved, so you can avoid endothelial rejection. You need lesser steroids, so you can avoid steroid-induced cataract or glaucoma. And because you don't do the surgery in an open globe, the risk of intraoperative complications is also minimized, and the graft survival, long-term survival is also great. In surgical technique in talc, basically there are two techniques. One where you manually dissect as close to the Descemet's as possible. And the second is you try to expose the pre-Descemet's layer. Earlier, we used to think that that's the Descemet's membrane. And this can be done by stromal injection of air, viscoelastic, or fluid. And in the pre-op evaluation, you need to do a slit lamp biomicroscopy to look at the extent of the involvement of the cornea, both horizontally and vertically. That can help you with the size of the trifine that you're going to use. Do a regional pachymetry to have an idea of the corneal thickness at the site where you're doing a trifynation. And I find an anterior segment OCT to be very important in decision-making, because if you see any scar involving the Descemet's membrane, you can avoid injecting air or viscoelastic into the stroma, because that's more likely to give you an undesirable outcome. The big bubble technique is the most popular technique of talc worldwide, described by Anwar and Tishman back in 2002. So here, basically, you're using a needle and injecting air at 80 to 90% depth in the cornea, and you get this bubble like a ring, a whitish ring that starts in the center and spreads to the periphery. This is the type 1 bubble, which is between the stroma and the pre-Descemet's layer. And sometimes when you inject air, instead of getting a bubble with a whitish margin, you get a clear bubble where the margins are very sharp. So that's a type 2 bubble where the separation is between the pre-Descemet's layer and the Descemet's membrane. And the contribution of this pre-Descemet's layer, or the Dua's layer, has been with Harminder Dua, and this paper was published somewhere in 2013. Trifynation can be typically done using a vacuum trifine, which allows you to do a predetermined depth by the number of turns that you make, or you can have these handheld guarded depth trifines. You can use the femtosecond laser, and in certain cases where the cornea is too thin or it has variable thickness, you can use a diamond knife to make the groove manually. I like to debulk the cornea before I inject air, because it reduces the stromal emphysema, and it also improves the placement of the cannula within the stroma. Instead of using a needle, try to use a cannula, because the risk of perforation would significantly reduce, and you would be able to place the cannula at a greater depth. There are other instruments to stabilize the globe as well. So here you can see I'm introducing the blunt bottom port cannula into the mid-peripheral stroma. And as you inject air, you get the formation of the type 1 bubble, which starts in the center. And you inject air till the bubble reaches the edge of your trepanation. In case you encounter any resistance, you can do a paracentesis to release some fluid so that the counter pressure from the aqueous can be reduced. Once you have got the bubble formation, then you can, once you have got the bubble formation, you can deflate the bubble using a sharp knife, and then you excise the residual anterior stroma. And once you have done that, you can take a donor tissue. For keratoconus, we use the same size graft. Supposing that means if you have done an 8.5 millimeter trephination on the host, you will use a 8.5 punch for the donor as well. You can remove the Decimus membrane from the donor cornea, and then you can use the corneal button, place it into position, and secure with your preferred suturing technique of either interrupted or continuous suture. This is just to show you a video where we are using viscoelastic instead of air. You put the cannula into the cornea, and as you inject viscoelastic, the eye is soft. We have kept an air bubble in the anterior chamber. You see this air bubble getting displaced peripherally, and what you get in the center is a nice visco bubble. So you use cohesive viscoelastic in this step, and you can use this step as well. When you have scars involving the Decimus membrane, then sometimes you may not want to. So what we do is we do our trephination, and this is again a dissector that I designed available from stores. You can use that initially to debulk the cornea, and it's like a modified Malbrun's peeling technique where you do your trephination, and then you start from the edge of your trephination. Your left hand stretches the corneal tissue, and the right hand breaks the fibers that are separating. Now you can see we created a small pocket in the periphery. That's a small instrument, again, I designed called the stromal pocket forceps, with which you can make this small peripheral pocket, which you can put it around 270 degrees. And once you have done that, you can basically use your left hand again to do the same Malbrun's peeling technique, where your left hand is lifting up the stromal tissue. And as the stromal tissue lifts up, the right hand, the dissector, is just basically allowing those stromal fibers to break. And by doing this, you can see in the apical area, it's almost peeling off on its own, and you get a nice thin stromal bed. And if you look at the post-operative outcome for that case, you can see the residual stromal bed is somewhere in the range of only about 30 to 35 microns. Use of intraoperative OCT, yes, if you have access to one of these, the manual dissection or the big bubble can become relatively easy, because you can see the track and you know the depth of your cannula placement. And also, if you're doing a manual technique, you know how much of residual stromal bed you have left behind, so you can dissect a little more. Post-operatively, the common complication that you have is intraoperatively, if you have a perforation, you can get this double anterior chamber where there is some fluid between the pre-Decimus layer and your donor tissue. Management, yes, you can manage either by using air bubble, or you can put in a 20% SF6. And remember to keep the pupil dilated to avoid a pupillary block or Uretz-Zovalia syndrome. This is how typically a DALK case would look post-operatively: good endothelial cell count, and the graft, the eye is pretty quiet. This is again, when we use a femtosecond laser, you can see the edge. This was a mushroom shape, and you can get very good uncorrected visual acuity as well as minimal astigmatism. That's the post-operative topography of the same case. We did publish a paper in IJO describing the techniques and our results of DALK in keratoconus. Comparing manual, like if you bear the pre-Decimus layer or you do a manual technique, you find that in the long run, if you follow up more than 18 to 24 months, the visual acuity in the two groups is pretty much the same. The rate of visual recovery is more if you can bear the pre-Decimus layer. And the complications, suture-related complications, are pretty much similar. The endothelial cell loss is much lower than what you see. This is again two other papers where they look at that, do you really need the big bubble, or you can do a manual dissection which is close to the Decimus, and they have the same conclusion that if you look at the long-term follow-up, finally the two groups, the visual acuity is quite similar. This is a very large series from Paolo Rama from Italy. Again, they did a calibrated dissection using a diamond knife to up to 90% depth, and then did a manual dissection. and their visual acuity, average visual acuity was about 20/40, and only a 4% conversion to penetrating keratoplasty. So basically, in conclusion, DALK should be the procedure of choice when corneal transplantation is indicated in keratoconus, and you should not do a penetrating keratoplasty. Although the results of penetrating keratoplasty among all the other indications is the best best with penetrating keratoplasty. Surgical techniques, they continue to evolve, ensuring greater success of big bubble. People are looking at ways and means to improve the rate of big bubble. So achieving the big bubble, pre-op evaluation and surgical planning is essential. So you can't use the same technique for all cases of keratoconus. So you have to preoperatively evaluate and then decide whether you're going to inject air or you're going to do a manual dissection. And in future, yes, intraoperative OCT and femtosecond laser definitely will help improve the outcomes of DALK surgery. Thank you. Thank you for your patience.